Hello YouTube, it's Painter for Hire 1975 with you, and this is part 5 of how to paint a bust without an airbrush. Okay, when we last left off, I was starting to base coat the black, and I had mentioned that I'm going to do this and I'll have it all done for the next video. And the reason I do that is it's just base coating. There's really no need for you to just sit there and watch me base coat, because it's just, you're just painting one color. There's no technical details to it. But anyway, what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you about dry brushing, and I'm going to start with the skin, because I started looking at this, and I like his skin tone, but I would like it to be a little lighter in some areas. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, like, off-white type color. It's kind of a, I think it's like a buttercream or something like that. But anyway, we're just going to take the excess off of our paper towel, and we're just going to kind of just like very lightly just go over the highest of the high points. That's all we want to do, is just go over the highest of the highs. We don't want to like cover the whole entire piece. We just want to get really to just the more high points around the cheeks, these sunken in areas along his eyes. Anything that's kind of got a real major high point. Get his chin a little bit. Maybe just get a little bit of the forehead. Just a little bit. Okay. Add a little bit more paint. This particular, what we're doing here, you want to be very selective. You don't want to just go all over it like you was going to not normally dry brush something. You want to be very selective with what you decide that you want. You want to be very selective on which ones, on what pieces you decide to dry brush, because this right here can fade your entire piece. Just a little bit. Okay. That's starting to look pretty good. See how he's kind of, now he has that more, he still looks like the Cryptkeeper, but he's not quite as like tannish in certain areas. And we're just going to do the same thing to the hands. One thing about dry brushing is it's a very fairly quick process, but if you really take your time with it, you can actually really pull out some nice details. In a way, it's almost like you could do some, like, especially on clothing, you can, like, if there's like a lot of folds and stuff, you can really pull them folds out with dry brushing, and it really can make the difference. Yeah, I'm starting to like this. Okay. I just want to just give it a little bit. Let me take a look here. Yeah, that's much better. That's what I wanted. Okay. Now that we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to dry brush his jacket, and we're going to dry brush this base too. Now I painted this base in black because I want it to, I want the base to be more of like a gray castle type color, and like a darker gray, instead of like the color of like maybe a skin. You know, there are some castles out there that have like the color of like maybe the Cryptkeeper skin. I didn't want to have too much brown. I wanted some grays and some dark grays to kind of like give the piece a little bit more contrast and a little bit more color. That's another thing. When you're painting a model kit, you always want to, you don't want to like just have the model just look like one particular color. I mean, it's okay, but you want to throw more color in. Like if you're just doing an all black piece and then you don't have no other colors, it's gonna kind of look a little bland. You want it to look more, you know, more colorful and more, to be honest with you, I guess, you know, technically what you really want it to do is you want it to be more interesting. Because if you're just going to sit there and you're going to paint the same thing, same color, let's just face it, it's not going to be interesting to you at all. You know what? I'm going to get me a new cup because this paint has actually dried and it's actually doing some weird things here. Alright. Alright, get a new, put a little bit black in, put a little white in. Not much, just enough to kind of make a dark gray color. That's what you want. That's what we want, is a dark gray. Yeah, that works. Always mix your paints with like a cheap paintbrush. When you use your good paintbrushes to mix paints and stuff, you can ruin your paintbrushes, and there's no need to have that. There's just not. Give me another paper towel. Okay. Alright, what you want to do is you want to take your brush, you want to dip it in, and of course you want to brush off the excess. Just brush it off. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to take it and you just want to just dry brush it to where it's kind of like fading it. If you notice, it's really, hopefully y'all can see this. See how it's fading it right here? Right here. See how it's kind of like got this faded look? That's the look you want when you're dry brushing something to make it look old. You just want to just fade it all over. And just do it the whole jacket. This is a really, really good technique. And then you can, and then after we do this and we fade it more, we're going to use the same technique and we're going to throw some browns on top of it to kind of give it more of a dirty look. Trying to make sure the camera can see. Okay, I think the camera can see this. Yeah. Alright. Like I said, we're just kind of just going over the piece to give it this really rotty looking look. When you're dry brushing, like I said, you want to take your time, and it's a really good technique. It can be done quickly, but it doesn't have to be done real quickly. But you want to make sure you do not have as much paint on your brush, because if you do, then you're going to be then you're basically going to be painting, and what it's going to do is it's going to leave muddy looking areas and spots, and it's just not going to look good. You don't want that. We're going to do the same thing here. Alright. Look here. See how I'm talking about right here? See how it's more really faded? That is the look that we want. And then how it's faded on this side compared to, like, look at his tie. See how bright and black his tie is, but look how faded his jacket looks. That's what you want when you're airbrushing, not airbrushing, when you're dry brushing a model to look old. And I will tell you something else. This is something that actually can help you just in general with clothing. You got to look at it like this. I used to have this guy that used to teach me how to paint models when I first started painting figures, and he always told me, whatever color you're using, you always add a drop of white to lighten it for each shade. Of course, that way takes a long time, but he is right. It does really work well. But it just takes so long because you're wanting it to drop, further and further and further, and it just seems like it's taking forever. So what I do is I just add a little bit of white. More like probably 4 or 5 drops, and then I just mix it in with my black. But this technique is really good for clothing, for catching the folds and stuff. This kit really doesn't have too many folds and stuff, so it's not a great example. But it is a great. It's good for clothing. If you had some black pants that you had and you want to catch all those folds, it's nice. You just paint, basically you just start out with your dark base tone and then you dry brush it right over. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you're catching the high spots and not dry brushing the inside, because if you do that, then you're basically covering up your shadows, and you don't want that. It won't look good. I'm going to be working on I got a contest that's coming in it's coming to my hometown. Not coming, but we're putting it on. It's a IPMS show. And I'm actually trying to get as much stuff as I can ready for it, but I got a piece here that I've been working on off and on for like 4 years. It's one of those pieces that, when you first start painting or whatever, and you start painting something, you put it down and then you want to take a break from it, put it down, take a break. It's one of those pieces. Everybody has a piece like that in their collection that they just don't paint right away. They think they're gonna finish it one day and like, I don't feel like painting this anymore, I'm gonna take a break. It's one of those. But anyway, I'm gonna try and get it done, and I think that when I get down to painting the clothing of the kit, I actually might do a tutorial on how to dry brush pants and clothing, because this right here is basically the technique, but the problem is like I said, there is no folds. All I'm doing is making this look more rotty and dirty and stuff, and that is a good thing, but there's not enough folds and stuff, so you can't really see how it would take place if you were to dry brush it, normally. Okay. See if you can see what I'm talking about. Take a look at the black on here versus his jacket. You notice how it's kind of lighter? I mean, that's basically what we're looking for. We want it to be lighter, but you don't want it to be real light. You want it to still have the representation of being black. You just don't want it to be, you don't want to cover it up and turn it into another color. And that's another thing. That is another thing that a lot of painters make mistakes when they're dry brushing, is sometimes they go so far, they literally change the color to where it doesn't no longer look like faded black. It now looks like it could be blue, or it could, you know, be like a violet or whatever. I mean, sometimes that is just what happens. Okay. Now we're basically going to do the same thing to this. Just want it to be just faded. Technically, I should have probably painted the white as well as a base tone, but I decided not to do that. I should have, because it's a rule of thumb. You're supposed to, you know, if you're going dark to light and everything for skin and everything, when you're painting clothing, you're supposed to go light to dark, because when you paint something that is supposed to be darker, and then you want to paint something over that dark that is going to be white or a lighter color, sometimes it's hard to get that other color to shine through. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. I did not post this in any of the videos that I mentioned, and I am so sorry for just now mentioning it, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it. Between the layers of the flesh and the layers of the jacket and the black and everything, between all the layers and stuff I do protect my work with dull coat. I've been using like a matte finish. The reason I don't do it in here is because I live in, you know, this house and everything. I don't want to have that fumes in my house, and there's no need to just go out. I just go outside and spray it and just sit it on the deck. So yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I just did not want to do that with this particular piece, because I don't want to have that fumes in my house. But I did want to mention, it is important that you do some dull coating between coats and stuff, especially when you're starting to dry brush. Because if you don't, what will happen is, once you start dry brushing, if you don't have your work protected, you actually may end up pushing some of the color off of your piece, and then it'll just basically kind of like chip away. It's a protector. The matte finish is to protect the work and to protect the color from basically chipping off and just going away with other colors. Because some other colors, when you're messing around with different colors and different ideas, some colors, they like to do this thing where they'll turn around and they will interact with each other, and then it will cause runs. Sometimes it will cause the colors to bleed through each other, and you know, it just can sometimes become a mess. So you don't want that. Alright, now we're going to dry brush his tie. Alright, that's starting to look good. Okay. Alright, now, what we're going to do is we're going to add some dark brown shades just by dry brushing to the black. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a dark brown color. I think it's the darkest I have right now. So we're going to take a dark brown. You know what? Actually, this is what we're going to do because this will probably look better. Nah, we'll do it this way. Alright. We're going to take our dark brown. We're just going to dip it in just a little bit. And keep in mind, we already have a little bit of black on our brush, so it's... Yeah, okay, that's going to work. We're just going to just take a little bit and we're going to just dry brush it off like this. Okay. And we're just kind of going to just give it a little dirty look right in here. This is actually looking good. This is one of the things I like about model kits is there's so much improvisation that you can do to a kit to one, make it your own, two, to make it look, to give it a more of a more exciting appearance. I'm going to do the same thing. I don't know if it's be very hard for you to see, but right in here I've kind of added some browns in it, and it's given it more of a dirty look. Kind of like he's been underground for a while. And we're going to do the same thing to the tie. Like I said, one thing when you're painting this stuff is you really just want to go gradually at first, and then once you finish your idea and you finish your base tones and you get your colors the way you want, then you can go in and you can start, refining things. I mean, it's basically, I don't know if anybody here draws, but it's basically the same thing as drawing. When you are drawing a piece, like a picture or something, you start out with like a loose sketch, and you may have some shapes or something here and there that don't quite belong, and then you just start out with a loose sketch, and then once you're satisfied with a line, you make that line more permanent by pushing down on the paper and making it more permanent and bearing down and making more of a bold line. It's basically what you're doing with painting. You're sitting here and you're kind of improvising on what you want the kit to be. You get the idea of the model kit, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. You just get an idea on what you want it to be, or what you want it to do, and then once you got your colors laid out and your base tones, then you start messing around. But you got to make sure you're happy with your work before you start doing these little details. And you can also, like, let's say that I'm not happy with his face. Well, I can easily go in there and I can change it. I mean, that's the beauty of these model kits, is you can go in there and you can change things. But once you start getting more with the eyes and you do your eyes, I would say once you finish your eyes, there is ways to go back and make changes, but that's usually like the point of no return, in my opinion, is when you don't want everything to, like, you don't want to go back and change things once you start doing the eyes and stuff, because it's just so, I'm not going to sit there and say it's difficult, it's just, it can be a pain in the ass, basically, to do that. Okay. That's starting to look really, really freaking good. I'm impressed. To be honest with you, like, anybody that's been following me knows that, you know, I haven't painted really anything in a very long time, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's like getting right back up on a horse again. No big deal. I guess once you got it, you got it. Okay. Well, basically, that is going to conclude this video. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just basically do to what I did to the jacket, to the base, and I'm gonna also base this in white and base his shirt on the hands in white. And then I will probably just finish up the video with the next video. I mean, finish up the piece with the next video. So anyway, as always, rate, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks. Bye.